You've just granted select on all tables to your app user, deployed to production, and permission denied on the new orders table. Sound familiar?
Wait, I literally ran grant select on all tables in Schema public. How is that even possible?
Because that command only affects tables that exist at that moment. Future tables aren't covered. To grant select on future tables, use alter default privileges. Postgres permissions are layered. Roles, schemas, object privileges, and default privileges all interact. We're going to whiteboard the actual privilege model so you never hit that again. All right, foundation first. Roles versus users.
Okay, so roles are like groups, and users are the actual accounts, right?
That's the MySQL mental model, but Postgres doesn't work that way. Everything is a role. Some have login index privileges, some don't, and roles can be members of other roles. That's it. When you create user, Postgres is literally just running create role with the login index attribute turned on. Groups are just roles without login index that other roles are members of. Roles are stored in the system catalog, and you can view them through PG roles or PG authed.
So what I've been calling a group is just a role that other roles are members of.
Exactly. You grant one role to another with grant role name to member name. The member inherits the privileges of the parent role by default unless you use no inherit. Here's the pattern. Create a non-login role for the privilege set, then create login roles that are members of it. Now you grant privileges once to app readout, and every member gets them.
That's way cleaner than granting to each user individually.
And when you add a new app instance, you just create another login role in that group. One privilege definition, many logins. Now schemas, because this is where most MySQL migrants get blindsided.
I thought schemas were just namespaces for organizing tables.
They are, but schemas can have permissions that affect access to the objects inside them. Every object lives in a schema, and you need the right schema permissions to access those objects. To query a table, you need usage on the schema and select on the table itself. 2 layers. If you revoke usage, the role can't even see that tables exist in that schema, even if they technically have select.
So what's the deal with the public schema?
By default, the public schema grants usage and create to public. In production, you should revoke broad public access and grant schema permissions explicitly to the roles that need them. First line revokes all privileges on the public schema from public. Second line grants only usage to your app role. Now you control exactly who can do what.
So I should do this on every new database?
In production, absolutely. You can script it into your database provisioning. Then grant usage on specific schemas to the roles that need them. All right, now the big one. Why grant select on all tables in schema affects only tables existing at the time of execution, not future tables.
This is the one that bit me. I granted select on all tables, but new tables created later were still permission denied.
Right, because all tables means all tables that exist at the moment you run the command. It's not a policy, it's a one-time operation on the current set of objects. That's why you need alter default privileges to cover future tables. When you run grant select on all tables in schema public to app readout, Postgres iterates over every table that exists right now and grants select. 5 minutes later, someone creates a new table. That table does not automatically have grants to app readout unless default privileges are set.
So how do I make sure future tables are covered?
You use alter default privileges. That sets a policy. Any table created in the future by a specific role will automatically get these grants. This says, for any table created by schema owner in the public schema going forward, automatically grant select to app readout. Notice the FOR role clause. Default privileges are scoped to the creating role.
So if a different role creates a table, this doesn't apply?
Correct. If you have multiple roles creating objects, you need to set default privileges for each one. Or better yet, have a single schema owner role that creates all objects and set default privileges for that role. Here's your mental checklist every time you set up a new role. Database connect, schema usage, table level privileges, sequence usage if you have auto increment columns, and default privileges for future objects. Miss any one of these and you'll get permission denied.
Wait, sequences need their own grant?
Yes. If your table has a serial or identity column, the role needs usage on the underlying sequence to call nextval during insert. That's a separate object type. And yes, you need to set default privileges on sequences too if you want future ones covered. By the way, my DBA's free health check scans your role and privilege setup, flags superuser sprawl, and catches missing grants before they cause production errors. It's continuous, not a one-time scan.
So it'll tell me if I forgot to set default privileges?
It'll flag the pattern and give you the exact alter default privileges command to run. Connect your database at mydba.dev and you'll get a growing health report over the first week, 16 domains, each finding paired with the fix. Now ownership, because it bypasses a lot of this.
What do you mean, bypasses?
The role that creates an object is its owner, and the owner has extensive privileges on that object. Plus, ownership gives you control over the object that other roles don't have. If app user creates a table, app user owns it and can select, insert, update, delete, truncate, and drop it, no grants needed. If you want a different role to own all your application tables, you need to create them as that role, or reassign ownership with alter table owner2.
And superusers?
Superusers bypass all permission checks. They can read, write, and drop anything. That's why you should never use a superuser for application connections. One SQL injection and the attacker owns your entire cluster. You can change ownership object by object with alter table and alter sequence, or use reassign owned by to move everything owned by one role to another in one shot. This is especially useful when you're consolidating after a migration.
So best practice is to have one schema owner role that owns all the tables?
Exactly. That role is knowledge in index. You set default privileges for it, and your app roles just get membership or explicit grants. Clean separation of concerns. All right, final piece. The one command that trips up every MySQL migrant.
What is it?
Grant usage on schema name to role name. In MySQL, you grant privileges on database.table and you're done. In Postgres, if you forget to grant usage on the schema, the role can't access objects inside it, even if you've granted select on every table. And remember, you also need to grant specific privileges on the tables within the schema. MySQL has one layer, grant select on database.table to user. Postgres has two, grant usage on schema public to your role to let the role see into the schema, then grant select on table to let them query. Forget the first one, and you'll get permission denied for schema errors.
So that's why my migration scripts worked in MySQL but failed in Postgres.
Yep. Add grant usage on schema public to your role at the top of your setup script, and you'll save yourself hours of debugging. To wrap up, here's the full stack. Postgres checks database connect, then schema usage, then object level privileges like select. You can go even deeper with column level grants and row level security policies if you need fine-grained access.
That's a lot more layers than I expected.
It is, but it's also way more flexible. You can model complex access patterns, read-only roles, schema isolation, column masking that are awkward or impossible in simpler systems. The trick is understanding the model so you're not fighting it. If you want to audit your current permission setup, head to mydba.dev and connect your database. You'll get a free continuous health check that flags superuser sprawl, missing schema grants, and privilege gaps with the exact SQL to fix each one.
And it keeps scanning over time?
Yep. The first report lands almost immediately, grows over the first week as more telemetry arrives, and then you get a fresh comprehensive report every week. It's free, you connect your own database, and it covers 16 domains, permissions, indexes, query performance, vacuum, the works. Check it out at mydba.dev.